Volk fights at 145. He went up to fight Islam. Islam is supposed to win that fight. For us to pretend that it was impressive, the only reason why it was impressive is because how good Volkanovski did against that fight. That's the only reason why that win was impressive. That's the only reason why the streak was somewhat impressive, is because how good Volkanovski looked. And we all, as UFC fans, realized how good Volkanovski is, because before then, we didn't. The streak at 145 versus the streak at 155, they weigh completely different. Look at the killers at 155 versus the killers at 145. Not taking anything away from Volk, but this is what I think about when people talk about streaks and how he ended Volk's streak and this and that. Again, Volkanovski's streak is impressive at 145. But at 155, he doesn't have a streak. He didn't beat anybody at 155. So when you guys say he ended the pound for pound, streak, I'm like, he beat him at 155. So did he really end his streak or not? Hey guys, welcome to the False Nine podcast here with episode 144. 44. Guys, today's episode is going to be, you guys know the title, so I'm not even going to explain it. But we're going to just go over some UFC news, minor things, and obviously about the title, about what's next at 155 in the UFC. But I want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the people that basically just enjoyed and watched and consumed and anything. If the False Nine was on your phone, the logo, a video, my face, whatever it may be, the name, a reply to a comment, whatever. I just want to say thank you because we have achieved a big milestone just today or over the night. My podcast, or the last podcast episode, what is it called? It just surpassed 1,000 views. It's a big deal because we, as the False Nine, we never achieved something so great. And there's been a lot of times in the past where I thought that this is the time. And what's happening right now with the podcast and the clips, I didn't think it was going to happen right now. I remember having a conversation with my girlfriend, and, we're going to be moving into it. And I was like, yeah, a steady pace. I'm just going to start doing one episode per week. It's kind of going to be a little slow or a little, it's going to be chill. Like, it's not going to be anything like hard working for me, and that'll give me time to kind of focus at work and, get ready for going back to school and learn some other things and try to make, some extra money, things like that. That's what the last, 2 weeks, I told myself I got a month left. So let's kind of focus on these other things and put the podcast not in the priority list, you can kind of say. And next, I got, videos and clips, and I'm like, fuck, man, I need to make another episode this week. And I did, and it does good. And next, this video has 1,000. So it's really interesting how things turned out, and to be in this position, I'm very thankful and just appreciative. And I want to give the best content. I want to do my best to express myself and why I say the things that I say. And obviously just to entertain, and that's it. I want to have, I'm here having a good time, and I want to watch you guys. I want you guys to watch this and just kind of smile, kind of laugh or nod your head. I know some people, when they watch this, they'll probably get a little annoyed or angry, you could say, but I want those emotions to flow, through people's bodies or minds when they watch, the False Nine, whether it's me or a guest or whatever. I want them to be emotionally attached, you could say. And I don't know, that just would make me more happy. So to achieve this, and 1,000 eyeballs, 1,000 clicks, you could say, and the hours of watch time, I'm like, freak, man, that's I think we got like 60 hours of watch time. I was like, that's more than 2 days. Like, that's 48 hours straight, that people have watched my content. It blows my mind, because of what we do on average. It's like, an eighth of that. So it's pretty nice. It means a lot, and I'm just happy. I'm real happy about it. So thank you guys. And enough of that. Let's kind of get right into it. Little UFC news. Nothing big. There's Bo Nickal, maybe the next fight for Israel Adesanya. I just want to give my thoughts on that. I think it's still too early for Bo Nickal. I think he's still fresh. I know he's a real good wrestler. I think he can give Izzy a hard time. But I think with Izzy's experience and the people that he's been in the ring with, I think that what is it called? He's just not ready, and Izzy's going to have an answer for him. And, Bo Nickal probably hasn't faced somebody like Izzy, that caliber, that level, just that high level, And he's still up and coming, So let him sink, let him get his feet wet a little bit more, and we'll see what after, like I say, 2 to 3 more fights for Bo Nickal, maybe 2 after the second one, he's ready to go. So I think they should hold that and not rush that fight. I mean, I know Izzy's kind of running out of opponents, but we got to see what happens with that Whitaker and DeProyce, or however you pronounce the other guy's name, because that fight could be a potential one, especially if the other guy wins, because Izzy hasn't fought him. So that's my thought on that. The other thing is that Alexa Grasso is number 1 ranked for the women's pound for pound after Amanda Nunes left. It's a little weird not seeing Amanda Nunes on top, and it makes you realize that, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, but there's not like a lot of superstars in the women's division. Now, I think this time, now that Amanda is gone, I think it's gonna make a lot of superstars. Like, maybe Alexa Grasso goes on a nice streak, or we have just a nice, you can have a trilogy with Valentina Shevchenko. You can have that's a potential trilogy. Juliana Pena, we don't know what she's about, with other opponents. So there's other opponents out there there's other women out there that are going to be able to shine and not hide under the shadows of Amanda Nunes, because she basically took all the glory in just the whole women's, and not just one division, the whole thing. So I think that it'll give them opportunities. Now, I think it's kind of fair that Alexa Grasso got it. It just made sense. Who else could you put up there? You most likely would have put Valentina Shevchenko, but since she lost, you kind of had to give it to Alexa. So it's very understandable, but I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. We'll see. I like I said, I think even like Aldana, she'll be able to fight, and I think she can be a contender. I think I would want to see her against Pena at one point, just to see how that works out. So that's that. Let's see. The other thing I want to get off my chest, and I'm going to go on a little rant here to my Russian or Daki fans or Islam fans or Khabib fans, right? And I have nothing against them or anything like that, and I am biased, like when I speak about them or whatever, but I'm also very, like, I'll admit to things. I know for those who did watch, I admitted, talking about how I leave Khabib alone, how I admitted that, Islam technically won the fight, but I still expressed how I felt towards Islam. So, and I make the clips for content. So you guys I know not that I know what I'm doing, but I like to get people riled up, But there's one specific type of comment that I can't understand, or it's getting annoying to me. And I really want to express that here. And after that, I'll feel much better, So now to the comment itself, it's just people talking about how Islam ended 2 streaks, the Charles Oliveira streak and then Volkanovski streak. And just to give this one over with, when he beat Charles Oliveira, yes, it was an impressive that he ended Charles Oliveira's streak, because he was on fire. He was on top of the world. That's how he blew up, is because of who he beat, how he beat. And, that's how Charles Oliveira became who he is now. And that's why we all love him. And for Islam to go in there and just kind of end that and end his streak, and, that's very, very impressive. Don't get me wrong. Now, when people talk about the Volkanovski thing and that he ended Volk's streak and he was on this streak and blah, 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 right? And in my head, I'm like, guys, the first thing is that Volk fights at 145. He went up to fight Islam. Islam is supposed to win that fight. That's the bottom line. That's the facts, and that's just how it is. Usually when a fighter goes up, the bigger man is supposed to win. I know people talk about, well, Volk weighed more on that day, da 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 da. I don't like. I don't care about all that, right? Because Islam fights at 155, and he fights at 155 because that's where he feels best, and that's where he feels the most, that his advantage is there, whatever. Volk fights at 145, that's where he is his best, and he can get down to that size, whatever. So if Volk's going up, again, the bigger man is supposed to win. So Islam was supposed to win that fight. Like, and he was the favorite. He was supposed to win the fight. It was like, for us to pretend that it was impressive, the only reason why it was impressive is because how good Volkanovski did against that fight. That's the only reason why that win was impressive. That's the only reason why the streak was somewhat impressive, is because how good Volkanovski looked. And we all, as UFC fans, realized how good Volkanovski is. Because before then, we didn't. We understand he defended his belt against Brian. Brian Ortega. He's beat Max Holloway, I think, two or three times now. But besides that, in that 145, there's really nothing much besides that going on. When we talk about the killers at 155, or even the killers at 135, not even like killers at 135, but it doesn't weigh the same. The streak at 145 versus the streak at 155, they weigh completely different. Look at the killers at 155 versus the killers at 145. Not taking anything away from Volk, but this is what I think about when people talk about streaks and how he ended Volk's streak and this and that. So, again, Volkanovski's streak is impressive at 145. But at 155, he doesn't have a streak. He didn't beat anybody at 155. So when you guys say he ended the pound for pound, streak, I'm like, he beat him at 155. So did he really end his streak or not? That's how I feel. Obviously he did, because he lost, and they put the loss on his record. But when we talk about how I see it and how it is, I'm like, he beat him in Islam. The only streak that was going to end was Islam's streak, because Volk still has a streak at 145. He hasn't lost a belt at 145. Volk's never fought at 155. Like, let's be fucking real and let's acknowledge the facts, because that's how it is. Not taking away anything from Islam or anybody. I'm just speaking about how it is and how so different, Charles' streak weighs a lot more different than Volk's streak, because Charles had to beat Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and then he had to go fight Islam. Volkanovski, I mean, if you look at Volkanovski's last few wins, they don't compare to Charles Oliveira's wins. Like, that's just how it is. So the only impressive streak that he won was against Charles Oliveira. That was impressive, but don't put Volkanovski streak in there, because it's a whole different weight class, different opponents, different weight cut. All that is completely different at to 155. So I know I'm gonna keep seeing it, but I want to just say it out there, because you guys are tripping. I'm just being real. To think that it's impressive that Islam beat Volkanovski, because it's not. It's not impressive that he beat Volk. Like, it, and besides that, it's not, the way he won is also not impressive. I gave Islam his praise. He's really good at striking. He's probably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC right now, but it was not an impressive win against Volk. Now, the impressive win was against Charles Oliveira. I will say that. That's very impressive, and I give him that win completely. But let's not fucking pretend that it was a big deal that he beat Volkanovski, because the only person that looked good after the fight was Volk. He went up and tried to be a double champ, and he failed. He tried to do something extraordinary, and he failed. The chances of him making that happen was small, whether it was Charles as champ, Justin, whatever. But you go up and fight in the different weight class and go fight that champ, and that champ has been to different fighters a lot bigger than you. That's that. So it's not impressive that he beat Volk. Again, it's only impressive because how good Volkanovski is. That's it. That's the only reason why Islam looks good. And that's the only reason why he's up there in the pound for pound right now. Like, that's it. And Volkanovski just makes him look good. And I'm gonna give that to I'm gonna just be real. And I'm gonna stop talking about Islam and Charles and all that in a positive, or really not in a negative way or anything like that, but kind of just giving reasons why he's not that guy, and this is like the last of it. Once, things happen, I'll start talking about it again. But I just wanted to get that off my chest, and again, and I'm gonna keep saying this till it happens, till Islam gets on a real streak and starts fighting real killers consecutively. Then that's when I'll give him all right, bro, you're that guy. But again, the position that he's in now and how he got there, I've said it already like 4 or 3 times. I got mixed emotions about it, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of people that think like me, and same thing with Khabib being the GOAT, or people calling him the GOAT. I got mixed emotions about that, and I know a lot of people think he's the GOAT, and I know a lot of people that think that he's not, and whatever. And another thing, about the Khabib and Charles Oliveira fight that I keep hearing about in the comments is that, well, Charles Oliveira has 9 losses, and I'm like, bro, Khabib fought 29 times. I think Charles Oliveira has fought in 41 or 39, somewhere around there, right? But like right over 40, or right at the 40 mark, which is just 10 or 11 fights more than Khabib. But if you multiply those 10 fights by camps, by weight cuts, it would just be the 10. But the amount of time that they train, and you do the math, Charles has a lot more time to spend. It has spent more time in the UFC. Like, that's that. And of course, if Khabib would have stayed in the UFC, he would have lost eventually. Nobody's perfect. Like, it's not possible. It's just not possible. And I'm not saying that, and not to say that I'm hating on Khabib and like, oh, he would have lost eventually. No, it's just like, man, look, people lose and people get the best of you sometimes. Look what happened to Amanda Nunes. Look what happened to Conor McGregor. Look what happened to Charles Oliveira. Look what fucking happened to, eventually happened to Anderson Silva. He was kind of getting at the age of it. But we kind of see this happen. Like, no one's perfect. Canelo lost to Mayweather, to Bivol. No one expected him to lose to Bivol. Things like that. So it's just like, if Khabib would have stayed, it would have been a different story. If Khabib would have had the same amount of fights of Charles Oliveira, would he have the same record or not? We don't know. We really don't. And that's why, talking about, Khabib and Charles, that's where, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know, because Khabib only fought 29 times and he did dominate, and he was just so dominant. But Charles Oliveira has also fought a lot of people, and now what he's showing is GOAT status, is GOAT like material. So I don't know, So just to kind of clear those things up, I guess you could say. But the main thing of this the podcast, what is next for the division at 155? It's super exciting. That's all I've been talking about for the last the few episodes, and all the clips are about Islam and Charles and this and that. So let's start off by talking about the rankings first. So let me just pull it up real quick. All right, so we got number 1. We have Islam Makhachev. We got Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, number 3, Justin Gaethje, number 4, Beneil Dariush, number 6, Rafael Fiziev, Beneil 5, Rafael is 6, Michael Chandler is 7. I'm gonna just stop there. No, actually, I won't. Gamrot is number 8, and then this name keeps being talked about too, is Arman Tisserkhan. Don't know how to say it, but people keep talking about his name. And I think we need to wait on him, and he needs to get some more wins under him to get up there. But those are the rankings. So now I do want to just kind of mention this. So we have, what's coming up next is we have Justin and Dustin Poirier fighting again. There's going to be their second time. I believe Dustin won the first time. Then we have Volkanovski versus Yair, and I only bring that up because of Volk. And then we had Charles that just beat Dariush, and then Chandler was supposed to fight Conor McGregor, and now we start asking questions: who's the next title contender? Who's gonna fight Islam next? Whatever, right? So, the obvious answer is, well, Charles Oliveira should fight for the title. He's number one contender. And the only thing is, we're like, they just fought, they just fought. Do we really want to see that fight? And the way that fight turned out, it's just like, are we going to, to headline in a main event, to repeat what happened already? It's just like, do you really want to do that so soon? Or do you want to kind of let it fizzle out a little bit and then bring back, like a boom? Because when the champ fights, they're going to pull pay-per-views. When Islam fights, they're going to get pay-per-view buys. Russia loves him. And people love him too. So there's a lot of people behind the champ. And then when Charles fights, there's a lot of people behind Charles. So there's not a rush right now that you need to make that fight. There's not an urgency just yet. And I say yet because I will talk about why there might be. Now, the thing is with that is just like, again, you don't want to rush the fight. And you still have the opportunity to make that fight later. Now, the other thing that can happen is, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. So what happens when somebody just, let's just say Dustin goes in there and just puts on a crazy performance. What happens, right? Does he fight Charles again? Is he next for the title? Does he fight someone else that's ranked? Or what does he need to do now to become, the champ? Because if you give it to one of them too, I was like, well, Charles made them both look like chumps. So it's like, even if they do win, they still got to kind of do a little bit more to be up next for the title, whether that's fighting Dariush. We don't know, right? So we don't know what happens with that. And then if Volk wins, we clearly see, Volk and Islam possibly. If Volk wins in a dominant fashion, there's definitely an option. But if that's a war, then there's just no way. But if Volk and Yair is not close at all and Volk just gets it done within 2 rounds, then why not? Why not go for the Islam fight again? The only disadvantage is that Volk had just got off a fight, so I don't know if Volk would do it. That's something to think about too, especially if you want to be double champ. So we get to the point now where like, so then what does happen? What happens at this division? What do we do now? And I think what should happen is, I think Islam should fight. I think he should fight either the winner of Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, or he should fight Beneil Dariush. It was a quick fight. He got knocked down. I don't think the recovery is too bad. I don't fucking get hit with crazy guys like Charles Oliveira. But I'm assuming that it was just a night lights out and, a quick recovery. I don't know how bad if he had an injury or concussion. I don't know. But I would think that, I think the Beneil Dariush fight just makes a lot more sense to me. And I'm a big Charles fan, and I'm going to get to why I don't think Charles should fight next, or fight Islam next, or you could say yet. I think if, Charles has shown his star potential and who he is, in the UFC, and we all love him, and, I explain why we love him. But who else is there to fight, for Charles Oliveira? Because he had beat everybody but Islam. You go fight Islam now and you go lose. Not that you become irrelevant, but you start becoming like Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. Like kind of where they are now. Like they're amazing top 5, but they're not title shot like contenders anymore because they had 2 shots already and they lost. So you don't want to become what they have become. And Charles, I think, is reflecting that and starting to see that. And I think what Charles needs to do is, he fought Dariush already. And now I think he should try and fight Conor. And I don't know, I'm sure people know this, that about Conor and da-da-da. But apparently Conor, didn't enter the USADA pool, so he's not going to fight this year. So, there's still hope that he could fight. And I think the Charles fight is one of those fights that can get Conor to come back, but then it's also scared him away because look what Charles has done to everybody in the division. We don't know how good Conor is right now, and whatever. So I think Charles should go and try and fight Conor and make that the priority because the Islam fight's always going to be there. As long as Charles keeps being Charles, the Islam fight's always going to be there. Now, the only thing, yes, you can be champ again, but, you could also lose and start becoming like Dustin and Justin. And you don't want that just yet, if that was to happen. So, Charles should try just to go fight Conor. And if that fight does happen, like, it makes a shit ton of money. It makes so much money. Conor makes a nice payday. Charles makes a nice payday. It's crazy for everybody, right? So, now what, like, and this is where things get really interesting. Like, if what is it called? If Charles win, then yeah, go fight Islam. But what if Conor wins? Then what happens? Does Conor, kind of get a grid? Does he kind of get his edge back a little bit? I don't know. We don't know, right? But what if it does happen, like some crazy world that was to happen? Now you have Conor potentially fighting Islam. The protege of Khabib. That would another payday, right? So you have that possibility, and that's why that fight looks nice. Charles gets a nice payday. He can also, if he wins, go fight Islam and make even more money, because you just beat the guy who makes all the money in the UFC, and now you're gonna go beat the champion, and now you're that guy. And I think that's how you can really set a bar, for the division itself. To beat everybody who is beaten, and then to go and beat Conor, and then to go get your belt back. At that point, I would have to give it to Charles and being the best lightweight in the world. I'm just being honest. And yeah, I'm biased. I love Charles. He's my fucking favorite fighter. I ain't no meat rider, though. He lost that fight. I'm gonna just be real. But I think he can come back. And I'm saying not to rush the Islam fight, because there's a chance he could lose. There's a good possibility he could lose and become like Justin and Dustin, And we don't want that. I don't want that for Charles. So I think, Islam should go fight Beneil, and, no one's probably going to watch that fight like that, because we all want the Charles fight. But he goes, fights Beneil Dariush, and then he can, Beneil will know, like, whether he wins or not. If Beneil wins, we can see a possible rematch with Islam. We can see a rematch with Charles Oliveira. Like, it makes it just interesting, because if Islam beats Charles, if they make that fight happen and Islam beats Charles, what do you do with Islam again? Like, does he fight Volk again? Like, he's going to be fighting the same people on repeat. And it's just like, well, you don't want that either. So I think he should fight Dariush, see how that fight turns out, and then, possibly fight Charles after that if he wins. So we'll see what happens to the division. It's very, very exciting. The Volk fight's going to play a major part. Because you can also have, if Volk wins, easy, he can fight Islam again, but it's going to start get repetitive, because Islam's going to he has to fight Volk again, and he has to fight Charles again. Like, he can't avoid those fights. They have to happen, and they got to happen pretty soon, because they're not getting any younger. So, yeah, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think Beneil, if he doesn't fight Islam, he needs to fight either the winner of Justin and Dustin, That's also that too. But with whatever happens, I think as the fans will be very happy. But you also got to think about the future and the matchups for the future, right? And I'm not no matchmaker or nothing like that. But guys, peace.